Okay, thank you so much for joining our call today, Dr. Joseph Cole. We're really thrilled to have you with us here today. So before we get started, we just want to introduce ourselves first. My name is Sahasra. I'm a sophomore in high school, and I'm the outreach lead for this team.
My name is Shakti. I'm an eighth grader at Stoller Middle School, and I'm one of the drivers for the team, and I'm part of outreach.
Okay, we're ready to head into the interview. Shall we proceed?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, first, first, can you tell us about yourself, like a bit about yourself, like your current job?
Sure. Yeah, I'm currently I co-founded Rose City Robotics this year in January. Actually, it incorporated in February, and so that's what I'm currently working on. But before that, I have a background. It's a very generalist background. I've worked in lots of different industries, mostly based on where I was and what the dominant industry was there. So when I was living in Portland, I've been in semiconductors, and when I lived in Texas and Houston, I worked in oil and gas, and in California, I was in the defense industry. So I've kind of hopped around depending on what jobs were available where. My education, I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, and then I went on to do a master's and PhD in applied physics.
Mhm.
And I also did a graduate certificate in statistics.
Really cool.
That's amazing. Okay. Um, so we actually remember when we visited your area and we saw your area of work, and we were really amazed to see how people work together like in one space. They divide their work, and it was really nice to see. And we want to know what inspired you to pursue your career in STEM and start Rose City Robotics.
Um, Well, I guess I would give two different answers. For STEM in general, I think it's just kind of general curiosity. Like I've always wanted to know how things work. And that's why I spent such a long time in school, is like every time I learned something new, then I realized how much I didn't know. So, so yeah, STEM just in general, I think it's like just learning how things around me are working. And for Rose City Robotics, like I've just always kind of loved robots since I was a kid. Like I would, watch TV like the Jetsons or whatever, and imagine robots in the future. And I realized this year that it's here. Like all that futuristic stuff that I just sort of imagined in sci-fi back when I was a kid is now actually possible. And so that's why I didn't want to miss that train.
Yeah, that's really cool to know.
Thank you.
Okay. We wanted to know what new projects are you working on and what are you most excited for?
So I would just say developing the business for Rose City Robotics is like the project I'm working on. And I don't know if it's new. I've been working on it for a year, but it's probably going to take some time to get the new business off the ground. Um, and so, yeah, we're mostly applying for grants, trying to get funding. There's a lot of government interest in battery recycling and creating a circular economy. Um, and then we're also talking to investors, and we got a lot of engagement from some pitch competitions that we have been a part of.
That's
In
really
my leadership, actually in school, I'm part of a grant committee, to year-long committee, and we're focusing on healthcare actually, and we're asking like nonprofits, we're choosing nonprofits to give money to. So yeah, that's cool.
Oh,
yeah.
cool. That's awesome.
Okay, another question. Um, can you give us some background information on what makes your robot different from others in recycling?
So I think using robotics and recycling, there are other robots out there. A lot of times you see them used for sorting different kinds of recycling. But I think is going to change very quickly is industrial robotics is not a new field. It's been around since the 80s, but it's very prescriptive. And that means that every time you want a robot to do something, you have to program it to do exactly that thing. And
Mhm.
if anything is different or out of the, norm, then the robot can't do it and it just has an error. And so now with the level of AI that's possible, the robot can be more adaptable to different situations. And recycling, it's especially important because it's garbage, or it's at least end of life. It's not garbage, I guess, but it could be dirty, it could be damaged, and the robot has to adapt to all those situations. And so now that's only newly possible, I would say.
That's really cool. Can you tell us like a bit more background on your robot? A bit.
Yeah, so I am just starting with a prototype robot. It's an open source hardware and software. It was all published by Stanford University. It's called the Aloha Project. And what Stanford did was they showed, and they just published this research this year, that you can use transformer neural networks, which are the same technology behind ChatGPT and other large language models. But instead of predicting sequences of words, you can use them to predict sequences of robotic motion.
Mhm.
And so that's the cool new AI that we can apply to lots of different situations. And the robot that I have and that Stanford designed is all about how do you get the data that you would need to train those transformer neural networks. Um, for language models, you could scrape the internet and you could get a whole bunch of words to train it on. And for robot motion, you need to actually demonstrate, or you need to teleoperate a robot through the motions you want it to do. And with 50 to 100 examples, you can train the network. So this robot, the Aloha robot, is all about getting those examples and then collecting that data, recording it, and then being able to train a neural network with it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
great.
cool. I think, yeah, like, yeah, just training with robots and, seeing how it processes the information and then, it gets better with more like information that it gets. It's just really cool to see that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, what is one of the most challenging parts of your job every day?
Um, so I think the most challenging thing I think is that we're doing something new. No one really knows exactly what needs to be done, and so we're trying to we have to figure out what to do with our time and prioritize all the different things we could be doing. We have to prioritize them so we can focus on what's actually going to move us forward. So right now that looks like doing a lot of customer interviews. So we've talked to all the biggest battery recyclers in the US. And now we're going through and having second interviews with them and just trying to get a really solid understanding of what their problems are and how we could fit a solution in, a robotic solution that would actually help them solve a critical problem and then they would actually pay money for. So, um, and it's challenging to figure that stuff out because you're changing the paradigm of how they work. Right now, they manually disassemble batteries, and they may not be familiar with all the latest technology in robotics. So we might know some things about robotics that they don't know, and then they know about batteries, stuff that we don't. Exchange that information and figure out how to move forward.
Yeah, connecting is probably
One of the
a
most
big
important
part in
things.
like doing robotics and stuff, especially
Yeah,
like in the first community. We do live very close to other
Bunch of-
robotics teams, and we always like go to their house and we're like, oh, do you have this screw? Do you have this part? And
yeah.
it's the same for us, and I feel like that's good. It's good to have someone to depend on. people
Yeah.
to depend on for answers, you know.
Um,
Yeah.
Rob, like it sounds really interesting and stuff, so we wanted to know what your favorite part is.
I just really like the just having to figure things out. Like when you get in a job that you're just doing the same thing over every day, you get really good at it, but it kind of gets boring after a while. And so this is new every day, and every day I have to figure out like how to use my time effectively, and it's always something different. So I love that part.
Learning something new every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the biggest thing, like, what's a big lesson that you've learned from your job working?
Um, I would say that yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but just like every time I learn something, it's like five new things that I find out that I didn't know. And so like there's just so much to know out there, and robotics is so multidisciplinary. Like it's impossible for one person to know everything that you need to know to like create uh, a, a robot with all the parts. Like there's mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and then there's the AI stuff. So many different fields. And of course, with batteries, then you get the chemistry of batteries coming into it and understanding all the parts. And so, yeah, I think that I guess that's I would say learning just that we have to work with other people. And so and realizing that and figuring out how to make those connections.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. What skills or like background do you think we need to like accomplish your job? Like if someone wants to like get into that profession.
Yeah, I think that the well, the most important thing I think are just like people skills, figuring out how to work as a team and working together because there's so much like you need to be able to work with other people and one person can't do it all. So that's one piece, and those are kind of the softer skills, but super important.
Mhm.
And then I would also say, like, especially in robotics, like if you want to understand the mind of a machine, you need to understand mathematics. And so just having a really solid background in math and I would say probability and statistics. Some people don't get into that stuff until college, but you can really start learning that stuff in high school too, and it's sometimes more useful than calculus, I think. So
Mhm. Yeah, stats like sounds more interesting too, like to
not
get
that you don't need calculus, but
yeah,
Yeah.
that statistics is just like more interesting to me.
yeah.
Yeah. What is something that you are proud of that you've accomplished in STEM fields or in your job?
I think just uh, actually, like one of the biggest projects that I've been a part of was a startup company I was at before Rose City. It's a medical device company, Your Labs, and they're building an ultrasound device for cardiac surgeries, like ultrasound inside of your heart. There's like a catheter that goes in your leg and it goes into your heart, and you take the images from inside your heart. And so I wrote all of the software for that device to like control all of the electronics and collect all of the ultrasound data and then beamform it, which is how you create an image out of the sound wave data that you record back. So that was actually a really fun project, and I'm really proud of that work. And I think they're getting very close to doing a FDA submission now.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
I'd be proud
Like,
of that too. Yeah, like it just like shows like how robotics can be used in multiple
where,
areas,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. Yeah.
Yeah.
places where
Any
robotics
other
is.
like areas that you've covered with robotics, like medical?
So I I don't think so. I mean, like I said, I've worked in lots of different industries. So a lot of my background was in algorithm development.
Mhm.
So I worked at Applied Materials, which is in the semiconductor industry, and they make all the machines that are used to build computer chips.
Mhm.
And then in that one, I was working on the inspection side. So we had electron microscopes and optical microscopes, and we had to try to detect defects in the computer chips at a very high rate. And so statistics came into that. There's a lot of like figuring out, you know, you take an image and you look for pixels that you consider outliers. And if it's an outlier, then you say, okay, that's probably a defect. And so there's a lot of statistics that goes into that. And so yeah, so I mean, it's always been about how do you take digital data and do something useful with it.
Mhm.
And so that sort of folds into robotics too.
Yeah, that's great to know.
Yeah.
Um, we wanted to know what advice would you give like children like us that are interested in getting into a career in STEM fields? Like what like advice would you give us?
Um, Yeah, I think just like definitely getting out there and getting your hands dirty and just like playing with technology. Like what you're doing in the first robotics challenge. I'm like so jealous of you guys and also my kids. I have a son that's doing first as well. And it's just so cool that you guys can do that stuff in high school and middle school. Like that was not available when I was a kid. So I would say, yeah, just like play with tech and learn how things work and do little projects around your house that are fun for you, because um, I also think that like for hiring, like the best employees are usually the ones that do things on the side because they just love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have another question. Relating kind of to that, like, when you were younger, like when you were, let's say, high school, like, what do you think you would have done like differently that would have maybe like helped you boost your career or something like?
I probably my homework. I wasn't the best student in high school, really. I mean, I was okay. I was pretty good, but
Mhm.
I was not like the top of my class. But I kind of turned things around in college, and that's when I really just like really started just learning because I was interested and I was curious, and not because somebody else was telling me, well, you have to learn this set of things.
You
And I
genuinely,
think having that attitude is a big,
Yeah,
yeah,
having a good
yeah,
attitude towards it.
yeah,
like you genuinely wanted to do it. That's why you did it, not just because
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
want to do it.
yeah.
Yeah. So what's one advancement in robotics that you're like excited about, like in general?
It's just
Yeah.
I would say just this mixing of AI, more AI into the robotics and getting to the point, like we see how powerful ChatGPT is, right? So all of that power, like we know how to use those networks now to do robotic motion planning. And so the bottleneck is collecting the data. And whoever figures out how to collect the data that's needed to train the networks that we already know how to make, they're going to be able to do some really cool stuff in the physical world. And so I think that's just like so exciting.
Yeah, there's
yeah,
like a lot of talk about like AI and robotics and stuff
yeah. Especially
Yeah.
evolving like so
quickly.
quickly.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are, finishing, well, you're in your education at such a cool time. And like by the time you finish school and college, like it's going to be just like a whole new world, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to end the last question, what resources would you recommend to learn more about robotics and STEM for other people, maybe?
I would say, that will definitely, try to pick up some probability and statistics. I know that there's like online classes like Khan Academy and Coursera and those kinds of things. and those are great. And I would also say learning what you can about how LLMs work, because that same technology is going to apply in so many different areas, the transformer neural networks. And so there's a really cool book called LLMs from Scratch that was just published. I'm working my way through that right now, and it's been really good for me. And it tells you basically how to code a large language model in Python from the ground up. So just starting from zero code. So it's really cool. And I think rather than just using other people's APIs, like you can, just use ChatGPT, but if you understand how it works under the hood, then I think that that's where that's going to be super valuable for jobs in the future. It's not everybody's going to go to that depth.
Yeah, thank you. So I think those are all the questions we had for today. Thank you so much
Awesome.
for your time. We really
Yeah.
appreciate
If you have
like,
any questions for us, you
Yeah,
can
we
ask
can-
ahead, but if you don't, that's also okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I would when is your first competition? Is spring
So,
thing?
our competitions are sort of lined up. Do you know what league meets are? I think like
Mm-mm.
so it's just like so first, instead of doing like one large competition, we
So it's
have
like-
small league meets, League 0, League 1, League 2, League 3.
Okay.
Here tomorrow is actually our second league meet.
Cool.
It's good because it provides us with, like what other people are doing. It like gives us some inspiration to tells us how other teams are doing and everything. So yeah, we're
it gives
excited for that one.
Yeah, it gives us like a
Uh,
window of time to like improve for our like
Yeah.
next league meet instead of
yeah,
having like big competitions.
And getting nervous for
Yeah,
those.
because like
right. So
Yeah.
how long does it take you to design your competition robot and build it?
So we've had two robot designs actually. So for League 0 and League 1, we had a one system robot, which was basically like normal chassis and everything. And then we would have an arm that would reach out and then it would go up like this and then it would drop.
I think
Now
wait,
for
I think they saw a robot,
Yeah,
remember?
I think so. But
We improved
just
it.
to like
Changed it.
re-say like now for our new robot for League 2, we have a one-on-one system. So first we have a system that goes this way. So it's basically like a slide, vertical slide built onto a horizontal slide, or a
Hmm.
horizontal slide built onto a vertical slide. So we go there and we collect samples from the submersible, which is like an area where all the samples are. And then our vertical slide will lift the horizontal slide up like this, and then we can flip our arm like this and drop it into like a high bucket, or we can clip them onto lower or higher rungs.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, good luck. I hope you guys do really well.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much. Thank you for your time
Yeah.
today.
We
Of
really
course. Yeah.
appreciate you,
Thank
like
you. Of
coming out and like helping us out.
course.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you